Good evening, welcome to the November 5th, 2018 meeting of the Weare Board of Selectmen. We start off 6:15 with a interview with a potential DPW candidate, and that brings us to 6:30, and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brings us up to public comment.
Neil Kirk, Mount Dearborn Road. At your September 17th meeting, you passed a motion to grant an easement to the Weare Winter Wanderers for snowmobile access over a couple of properties. A couple of issues. First, it wasn't clear what the easement was. There was no language that the board approved. It was just a concept. And I think it'd be nice if folks could see that language before it was actually implemented. Secondly, I think there may be a legal question as to whether or not the board can give away to a private entity something of value without compensation, because it's town property. Easements are worth money. People pay for them. The LCHIP program is based on easements. And I'm just wondering if town council had been consulted to make sure that this could be done. I don't have a problem with what you folks are trying to do, but I do want to make sure that you have the legal authority to do it, and that whatever right you're giving away or selling is clear and known to the public, so that folks can understand what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lori Davis, resident. Regarding that same easement, that property is also supposedly going to a warrant article for the Conservation Committee. Those are two of those properties were asked for by the Conservation Committee.
Yeah.
If that easement is granted, is the Conservation Committee already legally bound by you to have to honor that easement? Because you are now tying people who are watching that land. And that question comes in, if that's going to be their land, should you be encumbering them? If it's a temporary easement for you while you have it, that makes sense. But at that point, it should be a temporary one until they make the choice. Just raising that question. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay. We'll move on then to DPW Director. Yeah. I'm assuming it's going to be the new hire first before the uniform contract.
Yeah, why don't we, if that's all right with you guys?
Works for me.
So, with all summer of searching, I finally found our last truck driver. Killian Donnelly is here. You can stand up, Killian, to accept the position of truck driver for DPW. He can start November 13th, 2018 at the rate of pay of $16.56, and at 6 months go up to $16.89. Unless we get our raises in between, then that would be different. But so as of right now, any questions by anyone? We've kind of had our non-public already.
No questions of me. Any other board members? I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we hire Killian Donnelly at the position of truck driver for the DPW, starting November 13th at the starting rate of $16.56 an hour, and after the 6-month probation to be brought up to $16.89 an hour.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Noes? Abstentions? Only abstain.
I will go. Both of you are abstaining?
Yes. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you in a week.
All right.
see you Friday tomorrow.
All right, I just have a couple other really quick things. I know you guys have other things on the agenda. I'd like to get my uniform bid out of the way. I've been working on it a long time, actually. So to give a quick review of it, you have to, so the original contract, self-renewing contract, you had to write a letter 6 months in advance to the ending of the contract requesting to send it back out to bid or renewed. And this has happened before. It happened to me in Darien, and it happened to the previous guy here. Just something, it's written in really fine print down there about line 21. So I did that. I got caught once. I didn't get caught again. So we did that. We finally went out to bid. We sent it to multiple places and only 2 returned bids. That was from Centas Uniform Service and from Clean Uniform Service. Clean is the company that we use currently. Of course, it wasn't apples to apples. I knew it wouldn't be. So we took time and made it apples to apples. And in the end, Clean Uniform is the cheapest. I asked them all for 3-year contract, non-self-renewing, and they did write that up for me. So we had some service issues we're a little unhappy with. I think it's just because they were comfortable. So they understand now. They really want the business. So with that said, in year 1, Clean would be $168.77 a week versus $201.80 a week. Year 2 would be $177.20 a week versus $207.85 a week, and year 3 would be $186.06 versus $214.08. So year 3 would be quite a bit significant difference over 3 years. So I think kind of hard not to give Clean one more chance. I'm really going to stay on them about their service. They are offering a report now that I get every week on my computer, because there's always that argument, I turned in 5, no you didn't turn in 5. Well, they all scan them, and I asked why I don't get a copy of that report, and now I do. So we can see if one of my guys didn't, or if they did and the company just failed to bring it that week. So I think we kind of got them smartened up a little bit, we hope, and if not, we're not stuck with them for 5 years, we're only stuck with them for 3 years. So.
Okay. Now you said Clean is our current provider.
Yep.
Whereabouts does this lay up with our current number per week?
What do we pay a week? This is less right at the moment. Year 1 will be.
Less?
Well, no, I don't have that available. It's.
Okay. If it's, as long as you know it's either.
Yeah, they dropped it.
It's not much less, but it's less.
Right,
Okay.
right. It's not a lot.
Service too, because you got the rugs, right?
Yeah, and the floor mats they went way down on. I think they dropped it 11% on what we're currently paying right now is what it was.
I just want to make sure it lined up somewhere in the budget.
Yeah, it dropped 11%. And when I did my budget, I took the top number that you have just in case we went with them, because they pitched a good sale. It was really hard for me not to go with Cintas, to be honest with you. But
Okay.
Did you, in talking to them and negotiating, did you, because I know sometimes their performance is less than what's acceptable, and if they fail to meet certain performance standards, do you
It's
have
in
an
their-
escape clause that you
Yep,
get out before 3
yeah,
years?
that's in that contract.
Without being penalized, because
Right.
if you try to, even with the automatic.
You gotta notify them, give them a chance. Cintas,
Yep.
both companies are the same. You gotta notify them, give them a chance to correct it. So,
Okay.
and both are all new uniforms. You know, obviously Cintas would be because they're a different company, but Clean's gonna start with all new uniforms. We'll start fresh. Won't be starting with 5-year-old jeans. Like I said, our floor mats in the garage that they currently are doing, they gave us. I think they went right down the line and knocked 11% off what I'm currently paying. I think that's what the numbers came to. I think the guy actually told me that after we opened them. That's how he did his bid. So.
All right. Any other discussion? Any kind of motion?
I'll make a motion to have the highway department get their uniforms clean for the next 3 years and 3 floor mats.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Two other real quick things, if I may. I got a request from a department. I know one of your guys' answers. I like your other four input. Matt, the transfer station would like to have Saturday after Thanksgiving off again. We did that for them last year. It just happens, it's right after Veterans Day, and that's a floater for them, kind of, because it's on a Monday, right? So that'll be good to get rid of that floater right away instead of carrying it through. It does stink to have that holiday and have to go, nobody else has to go back to work on Saturday, so I don't have a problem with it. They're the ones that'll have to pay for it Tuesday morning, so.
Yeah.
So, I don't blame them.
Board have any problem with
No.
that? I don't.
Yeah.
Make
So
sure-
just.
Make sure it's well publicized.
Right.
It will,
discuss
yep,
that.
absolutely,
Because it'll be closed Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
Saturday.
Sunday,
right.
and Monday.
So he's got a little board up there and he's gonna put it on, we'll put it on the website, I guess, and
Yeah, maybe we get on
Maybe.
the cable as well. Local channel.
Do you want to explain a little bit about Saturday? Just because there'll be an expenditure of some overtime and some.
oh, sure, yeah. So Saturday, we had flooding, obviously with all the heavy rain, and I had a culvert fail. It's been failing, was my number one on the list to do next year. So on Colby Road, not the new one we put in last year, a different one, it's a 4-foot culvert down, it's the address in the 200 range down by Jim Dow's, Dow Tree Service area. The pipe was plugged, it's been half plugged all summer and it just was too much rain, so I got a phone call at 5 o'clock in the morning, I was washing up across the road, down through the guy's horse barn. He wasn't overly excited about it, so we went up there at the backhoe and I knew the problem, it just couldn't run enough, and we needed to get the culvert, the tore open, literally, because it was full of just stuff we couldn't get rammed through all summer. So I tried, and I couldn't get the backhoe, so I hauled the excavator down there. And I tried some more, and finally I got it. And then when I got it, Mr. Man, did water come? And it eroded the edge of the road out, and we had a mess. I got the water to stop going over the road, but so I got it fixed together, went and got some concrete pipe and laid it in there, but because you weren't going to get nothing else staying there, the water was running too hard. So I got concrete laid in there, got it butted up, covered with fabric, and we got it done. Boltons were good enough to open the pit for me because I needed something that would dam the water up to stop it coming in my hole. And that 3-inch ledge is, I took that and the material the beavers used to dam it up, and I built my own dam. And we got it. So, but we have overtime. I'm gonna have to do that culvert, and I'm probably gonna close the road down to make sure it just is really faster in the end. And something like that, I want perfect. Lay it right down. Not that you can't get it the other ways, shooting grades, but as I can. But so it'll be closed one day. I'll coordinate it at buses. I think I can do it in between buses if I have all my stuff ready. So you'll see some overtime there. I kept 2 guys there because they're expecting 55-mile-an-hour winds after months of rain, but 2 days of rain. I expected more trees down, so I actually had 2 guys stay there most of the day, and they stayed busy. We had other culverts plugged. They had to pull the grates and put the grates back, and picked up dead wood and stuff. So you'll see a little bit of.
But then you hired a truck too.
Yeah. Well, because half my guys were out of town and not quite on call yet. When I called Bolton's, I happened to know they were there because one truck kept coming through while I was working with the backhoe. So I called and I said, "Somebody down there loading trucks?" And he said, "Well, they're loading themselves, but I can have someone." And I said, "How busy is that truck?" Because I could use some help. So they sent 2 triaxle loads of dirt to me. I had it delivered, and I used 2 of my own trucks too. One to haul gravel. I used one to haul stuff away, I guess. But I mean, I had to do what I had to do. It was definitely an
That's what it
emergency.
sounds like. It was,
Yeah.
yeah. Things.
It's something we didn't prepare for. I mean, not that we weren't prepared for it. We knew rain was coming. The excavator was on the trailer. Everything was ready. I shouldn't say we weren't prepared for it, but you don't know something like that's
Right.
gonna
You
happen.
don't know what culvert's gonna give out.
Right.
Right.
So,
Right.
Right. Okay.
I think we did pretty good. The guys, as many guys as I needed came in. It wasn't I couldn't get any help at all, but it was nice having 2 triaxles back right up. I had a pile of dirt in a hurry, so that's just exactly what the doctor ordered, and so it was nice. But And all my guys, it was gonna all done raining at 9 o'clock. I think it was still pouring cats and dogs at 2 p.m. My guys were soaked and wet, and so I commend them guys for staying there with me all day. And my disposition maybe weren't the best by the end of the day. It wasn't what I wanted.
No.
You know, but we got it. Guys did good. So
Yeah, did they let out the dam?
horse leg,
Yeah,
I think so. But
I think so too, because it was pretty flowing, pretty rough today.
those folks that lived there at the horse, after we explained that we were gonna get their situation fixed, I got to talking to him, and that's the first time the water's been over since Mother's Day floods. And if anyone watched the news on their way in, or maybe it was on this morning, Hillsborough had same issues. They had places that hadn't washed over since Mother's Day flood. We got a pile of rain
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
on top of rain before, you know.
Right.
It's just, it's incredible
Ground's
amount of water
already
we have
saturated.
right now.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
right across the top.
Right. So.
Okay.
I just want to bring up one quick thing. After I was here last week, I went home and I saw there was an issue with one of my bills, and I just wanted to explain that. I wish that you guys would have asked while I was standing up here, but the water bubbler over there at the daycare, the reason I didn't get 3 bids for that, or quotes, was, one, I don't know who else does it. I'm not saying there's no one else, of course there is, but that's a company that has done the servicing on those RO units for here, the library, and their water system operators for the middle school, since we've had those items. And they knew exactly what I needed, and it was labor and material combined. Separate the two, they're probably both under 1,000. But, so I chose them as kind of like the sewer plant, right? I wanted the guys that know the system to work on the system. And I think in the end, it saved, I don't say saved the town money, but it would have been more money to hire someone who didn't know what they were doing.
It's
And,
been more hours.
they knew, because that was so those water bubblers, it's just like what you see when you go to the ones with the jugs on top. You pull a little tap, a little cup of water. So there isn't a jug on the tap on top. It's hard plumbed.
Plumbed in.
And there's an RO system there. Well, most of them have a blue and a red, cold and hot. That daycare couldn't have a hot, little kids getting burned. So that's a specialized water bubbler on top of things. It has a lukewarm room temperature and it has a cold. And it's regulated by DES, all the testing and everything. It's my responsibility, that little license that I have, to make sure that I feel the arsenic is being taken out of little kitties' water. So it looked like some individuals were unhappy. I didn't want it to seem that I was trying to do something underhanded. I did what I absolutely thought was the best for the town and the daycare. And just ask me if you guys ever have a question. I'm more than happy to explain. I'm wrong as much as I'm right, but I don't try to be. I always try to do what's best for the town and the Public Works Department. So at any rate, I know other people are here to speak tonight, so I'll get out of here. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Up next, recognize Board of Fireworks Chairman Steve Roberts for an update.
Sorry, I didn't think I was going to be up so soon. Good evening. I'm Steve Roberts, and I'm here on behalf of the board tonight. I just wanted to discuss, and the board asked me to talk to you about, a couple weeks ago, public comment. We held a hearing for ambulance billing down at the fire station, and there was some comments made that I feel should be addressed. But I would ask the board, on behalf of our board, that any issues that come up concerning the fire department, if you would please refer them to us. We're very open. We're willing to talk to anybody. Anybody is welcome to come to our meetings, ask any questions, call us anytime. But there was a lot of things put out there that, just left unsaid. The casual listener might think that that's what's actually going on. And there was a lot of really derogatory statements made I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was on the 15th of October. Just give you a little bit of history, because I don't know if any of you were on the board at that time, but approximately 5 years ago, we wanted to adjust our policy in the rates for ambulance billing. So we were told that we had to have a hearing here in front of the Board of Selectmen. And in fact, Selectman Osborne was the chairman of the board at that time. And so we did jump through the hoops that we were asked to do, and we came before the board. We were well prepared, because we had frankly spent hours and hours and hours on that project. So we went through the whole thing. It's pretty confusing. Anything to do with healthcare billing, if anybody knows about healthcare billing, is complicated. And so we did the best we could to educate ourselves on the issue, and also to explain it in the best way we could. At the end of after the presentation, there was questions from the Board of Selectmen, and at the very end, it was said that this belongs with the Board of Fire Wardens. We don't do this. And I'm paraphrasing, but basically they handed it back off to us. So, so this time we found out what the requirements were for posting the hearing. We tried to make it early enough. I believe the time was 6:15, and so we tried to make it early enough so people could still attend the Selectmen's meeting if they wanted to. We had 3 people from the public there who asked questions. It is confusing. We did the best we could to answer their questions. I thought that they were satisfied with that. If they aren't, then they're welcome, and anybody's welcome to come and talk to us about that. So that's that. There was also some comments concerning the ladder truck too, the insurance money for that. But here's what was said about the ambulance hearing. And Mr. Campana was speaking, and I tried to do my best to transcribe this off the tape. A pretty select group of people down there, and they like to be, on their own and do the things they want to do it. And so, and then speaking about having the hearing at the Selectmen, the words "very egregious" was used. And the definition of that is shockingly bad. So that's what, I think that I understand public comment, you're giving people a chance to voice something, but I think that it really doesn't do any good for anybody to have false information, frankly, put out there. And so, we don't do public comment at our meetings, but if anybody wants to come and speak at the meeting, ask questions, whatever they want, we're very accommodating. We've had, about the only thing that people have really come in for is driveway issues. And we do our best to accommodate them for that. So I would just ask the Selectmen, because we can't say anything if we're not here, if we don't know what's being said. And I would suggest the same for your board too, that you might want to think about asking people to, come in, make an appointment, what they want to talk about, so you can be prepared. We're volunteers. We put in a lot of time trying to manage the department the best that we can. We have our responders are the best, and we try to give them the tools that they need to do their job for everybody's sake in the town and those that come through town. We have a responsibility to. We don't waste the money. We have many examples of saving money. We actually are not trying to add to the fleet. We've actually cut the fleet in the last few years. And Chief Azina put in for used, well, not used, but refurbished new bottles and frames with refurbished air packs, which saved us about half the cost of buying new air packs. I don't know of any other fire department that's done that before. I'm sure they're out there if they do sell them, but I would guess that they're very few. So those are just a couple of examples where we've actually tried to, to show that we do feel responsible for the taxpayers' money, and we do our best to spend it as wisely as we can. We don't have to spend a dime as a town. We can say, it would be tough if you called 911 and they said, sorry, we don't do that. But we could if that's what the town wanted. But the town's voted over and over again to provide us with manpower, training, and the tools and vehicles to do our job. And so we try to use that wisely and do the best job we can, as inexpensive as possible. Yes.
Steve, do you have can you explain to us why you wanted to put the rates up, why you were doing that?
Well, like everywhere else, our operating costs go up if we don't keep up with, the industry, and we're not at the top or anywhere near that of what we could charge. We want to be reasonable, but as costs go up, we're attempting to, again, do the best for the taxpayers in that.
Have you got a report that you put together maybe that we could have a copy of?
We can get that for you, sure. But there'll probably be some questions.
Yeah, just what it was and
So
where you're going.
we could do
general
a presentation.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you increase
But-
the rate?
I'm not going to get into all the technical details because I don't want to get anything wrong, but
Yeah.
we made some adjustments and kind of bundled things together. If the chief wants to comment further on that, he can, but anyways, that's, what I'm asking. I'm not, the taxpayers are great. They've supported us over and over and over again. We've made some changes in the revenue fund the last few years. The last one, which was to add the ability to purchase equipment, not just vehicles. And so we do a lot of work to try and manage that fund to the best of our ability. But I was really disappointed. Watching the tape was hard, frankly. And so I don't want, just like an opportunity to get the right information out there to the public. I think they deserve that. All set?
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we will move on to the continued public hearing. It was tabled from the March 19th, 2018 meeting to hear public testimony and comment on the acceptance of the draft hazard mitigation plan update. I recognize Cam from the Southern Hills Planning Commission.
Thank you. I have some handouts. The plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you, Chairman Hippler and members of the board. My name is Cam Perlman. I'm a planner with the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. And over the past few years, I've been working with the town, with the Hazard Mitigation Plan Update Committee to update the town's hazard mitigation plan. That committee was comprised of folks from different town departments as well as school representatives. Ultimately, this plan is a tool. It's a planning tool for the town to identify specific natural hazards that could occur in town and identify specific actions that the town could possibly take to mitigate any of those hazards. The plan is also it's a good planning tool for other things, like if the town ever wanted to apply for grant funding kind of maybe unrelated to FEMA. The fact that it's been documented in the planning process, it could help leverage support for grant funding through that. So last Monday, New Hampshire Homeland Emergency Management, conditionally approved this plan pending approval from the Board of Selectmen. So the next step would be if the Board of Selectmen did adopt this plan, it would then go to FEMA for formal approval. And if anyone has any questions on any specifics of this plan, I'd be happy to answer them.
Jack, you want to raise that?
I got one. You
Yep.
got me listed as being the building inspector. And
I realize that, and I think it's definitely meant to be Chip Meany.
Yeah, no relation.
I can fix that tonight.
Okay. That's the only thing I saw.
It's here again, too.
Yeah, it's in there a couple spots.
Okay.
It's in there on-
I'll be sure to
With the back.
to change that.
Well, we went through
Thanks for the
We had gone
promotion.
through
but-
this,
Naomi. We went through this whole thing.
right,
I read
were all
it cover
those
to cover and
changes
They
updated?
made a lot of changes.
Yep, and we reviewed your comments and we incorporated them.
Thank you, okay.
And so between then and now, we kind of been going back and forth with Homeland Security to just make sure this met all of the requirements for FEMA.
Okay.
So, thank you for your comments back in quite a few months ago.
Quite a few months ago,
Yeah.
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 Board have any other comments on it? Chief Azina, Mr. Clow, any comments on it? You guys are listed in here, so.
A little bit. I just want to emphasize, even though you have it in front of you, the people out there don't, and that is that this was a comprehensive process that included the chief of police, the fire chief, the chairman of the local school board, the vice chair at John Stark, and the building inspector, as noted, Chip Meany.
Couple times.
And I represented the board, and Naomi, of course, was there. So it was a comprehensive process, and we met, I don't know how many times, quite a few times, in order to go through the whole plan as it appeared in the last version, in order to make the changes and to emphasize that it is a mitigation plan, and that is, it's there so that we can plan in advance for what might be and be ready for it when it comes. So I think it was a good process. That's basically what I want to say.
It's well done.
Thank you, Tom. And again, we did get a copy of this back in March, and just looking went through it, made some suggestions, as Cam said, they've been incorporated. So I think that a few changes in titles will be,
Typos.
yeah, typos. Any other public comment on this particular item, the hazard mitigation plan? Okay, we'll publish that.
Neil Kirk, Mount Dearborn Road. I'm delighted that the town is considering planning for these things, but I'd be concerned, and I hope the selectmen have determined what obligations the town undertakes by adopting the plan, as opposed to simply accepting the plan, and how much that will cost, and what kind of federal strings, if any, or state strings are attached to this, so that the record, the minutes of the meeting, reflects that we understand what we're getting into, and we're willing to undertake those things and raise taxes if that's necessary to cover those costs. Thank you.
Thank you.
This isn't, this is an update, though.
This is just,
We adopted
we
this
already,
years ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
We only changed what happened
Right.
in
Yeah.
from the last update till
When was
now.
the last update? It was
2011.
2011. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have had this on the books for quite a while.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's just
it was
we
back
This
when
is
Paul
just
came.
We just
upgraded it.
adjusted it for current times.
Right.
and corrected
Yeah.
stuff that wasn't right.
Right. Some of the historical aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's not new. I mean,
Yeah.
It's not new.
Right.
It's
just an
been-
update.
Ongoing.
Mm.
Right. Anyone else want to speak to it? Okay.
Do you have any answers to his questions? Are there any costs or any obligations?
For
Even
more
though,
than
even though
2011.
this is just,
Right.
yeah,
Well,
since
so
2011.
ultimately what this plan is, it becomes a list of mitigation actions. The town is not obligated to fulfill any of those recommended mitigation actions. However, if the town would like to, they could decide to do those. This isn't, you're not tied, FEMA isn't making the town do any of these things. But what this plan does do is it can help reimburse the town in the event of some sort of natural hazard that happens in town, or if they were to wish to apply for FEMA funding. But there's no fiscal obligation with just adopting this plan.
Okay, so to go along with that, if there is a suggestion in here and we didn't do it, and yet we're looking to FEMA because something happened, will we get reimbursed? Would we have
As long
a
as
problem with it?
if it's identified in this plan, I don't have the full answer to that of whether
Okay.
or not you will be fully reimbursed for that. But if it's in this plan,
You'll be weighted.
yes.
Okay.
Any other comments from the board?
No.
Comments from the public? Close the public hearing. Are we willing to accept it tonight with the said changes?
You have a
Yes, ma'am.
lingering grant. Do you have fringe?
Yeah.
What's she gonna pay for it?
Do the board members want to review it for a week, or are we willing to?
Yep,
Yeah,
Like
let's
to read
go
it.
through it again, make
In
sure.
2 weeks.
yep,
Okay.
maybe 2 weeks.
Can
It'll
we,
be after
can we
the-
give the nod, or does it need a formal motion?
I think you need a formal motion because there's a date that's gotta be included in there.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right. So as long as it's before the end of the year, we're good.
Well,
You-
he's still gonna process though.
You still got process, all right,
Yeah.
okay.
He's still, I mean, I'm not trying
Right.
to defend either way, I'm just saying that we're not meeting next week.
Right,
He still has to send it back for final approval.
So, but
Correct.
we'll have to meet the 19th?
We are meeting the 19th,
Right.
yes.
I mean, we
But they
have-
won't, that'll have to be like the dead, because that only gives them a few weeks, because remember,
Right.
everybody else's schedule works the same with the holidays coming up.
Right, we have had it for a few months, so. I mean, other than those short changes on the front, do you think we're gonna find anything else? I don't.
I don't
I'm
think
just-
we're
I'm
gonna
just-
find much unless
I don't think-
something is a typo or something.
Right, I just don't
I
want.
think I got most of those.
Right, I just don't wanna lose, I just don't wanna lose any potential myself for that grant.
Right.
And you can update this annually, not necessarily through the same grant funding process, but it's recommended that the town just continually looks at this, so
Yeah.
that is an
annually,
option as
at
well.
least review it.
Right.
So. Right, I'm gonna put it out there. Move to accept the hazard mitigation plan as written with amends of the positions. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
I'll abstain.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cam. Okay. 2019 Fire Department Budget Presentation. Recognize Chief Bob Zeno.
Thank you.
I have a couple other things as well. One being the RFP for dispatch services, which factors into the budget. I don't know if you want to take that up first.
Just kind of play into the budget. Sure.
Back in August, the end of August, I sent out an RFP for dispatch services, mostly because it's over $5,000 and requires an RFP or some sort of process. Put together a 4-page document. We sent it out to dispatch centers that we felt were could accommodate us, if you will. So we had Goffstown, Capital Area, Mutual Aid, Bedford Fire, Southwest, and that was it. We were considering Mac Base, wherever they are down south, but that didn't seem like that was going to be a viable option. They had a couple months. They had basically tell us all about your operation, and that went on an organization overview, fire dispatch experience, facility details, fire dispatch equipment, technical ability, operational ability, staffing details, what other additional services that they could or do offer, and then what the pricing was that was to that. We heard back from Bedford Fire pretty quickly that they weren't interested in pursuing that, but the other three were, which were Capital, Southwest, and Goffstown. Southwest did not return a proposal before the closing date. They still haven't, so it seemed as though that they were looking at how they could service us, because we're really at the edge of their area of operation.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And so, you know, in the fire dispatching, there's really three big players. There's Southwest, that does pretty much the western part of the state and into Vermont. There's Lakes Region, which does everything north of, say, Franklin-ish, or the Lakes Region. And then you have Capital Area that does pretty much all of Merrimack County and a couple other communities as well. And so that, if you want to look at the RFP, I broke down the results. We had two responses, one from Capital and one from Goffstown. I kind of broke their results down. I give the bottom one.
Thanks.
Kind of compared them as best I could side by side. Some of the stuff is very is the same across the board, and other stuff is very specific to the individual communities. To say that they are identical or they provide the same kind of service, I don't think that that's necessarily true. One is a fire-centric dispatch center, which is Capital Area. That's all they do is fire and EMS services, and Goffstown does a combination of police and fire. Two very similar but different operations. I think the largest differences are two things. One is the amount of, because Capital Area is a regional dispatch, that gives them a leg up in the grant opportunities, and they have written and received literally millions of dollars worth of grants over the years to improve their radio system. They operate a simulcast system that covers the whatever number of square miles, fairly substantial. In fact, they surround us completely with Dunbarton, Hopkinton, Henniker, Hillsborough,
Deering.
Washington, Deering, And it's about as far west as Hillsborough is as far west as they go. We have, so that's their radio system, which is pretty robust. Goffstown, they don't have a radio system, they use ours for our dispatch, and we've worked through many different remedies over the years, some that predate me, to get a better signal to and from dispatch. But we are limited. Every bit of radio improvements is on our dime, where if we looked at capital, all of those improvements would be on their dime. One of the things down the bottom, the additional services that are included. So there's one other difference between capital area and Goffstown is that capital area, you're joining a mutual aid compact, where Goffstown's offering dispatch services. So in addition to dispatch services with capital area, you get their on-site incident commander, which is kind of a coordinator. It's not a commander, it's a coordinator to help on those multi-jurisdictional issues and multiple agencies. They're there to provide some coordination with that. You get their hazmat team. Central New Hampshire hazmat team is included in that. They do have some central purchasing power. Most notably, they use that for SCBA replacement in the capital area. They were able to negotiate. I don't think it was a hugely different price point for SCBA, but they were able to go out and purchase more units, so they did get a benefit, a bang for their buck on that. They do annual training throughout the compact, mutual aid drills and stuff. They have bariatric equipment. We see more and more of our patients are heavier, and they have the equipment. I think there's one set located at Concord Fire, and there's 3 departments, Hopkins and Concord, and I believe Epsom, that have agreed to have their ambulances accept that equipment. So if we run into a large patient that we needed to use that equipment, we just bring them up and they come out and help us with that. What is that worth? I don't know. We don't have to buy the equipment, so a stretcher alone is probably $20-something thousand. So, and they also provide the regional and local emergency planning, the LEPC stuff. That's something that we currently do somewhat in-house, and that's a glowing overstatement, most likely. But that's something that they offer through, that's included in the price in the capital area. Those are the kind of the big highlights of the differences.
Chief, just to interrupt you for a second,
Yep.
if you went with capital area, does that mean being in that compact, does that mean they get a break if we have a paramedic intercept with them, or we still have to pay the same freight?
No, so capital area is a fire mutual aid compact.
Yeah.
It is not an EMS mutual aid compact, with the exception of the bariatric part of it. That's equipment that was purchased with a grant, and so that's available to compact members at no charge. Intercepts across the board, nearly across the state, you're paying someone for an intercept. So what does it all come down to? Money. A substantial amount of money. There's no way around that. So I guess the intangible things that you get with capital that you don't get with Goffstown were the ones that I just spoke of. I think that their radio system would most likely cure all of our ills that we experience on the fire side. They have interfaces with the records management systems that we use. The Firehouse Image Trend does share some information there. It allows us, and this would be with Goffstown as well, is it'll allow us to look at MDTs or mobile data terminals in the future. That is an add-on cost in both places. But the radio system itself is, like I said, fairly robust. our portable radios, under the grant, the statewide interoperability grant that took place probably in 2011. I'm sorry, 2001 was 9/11, so somewhere in there, early 2000s, they started replacing the radios. Our portable radios are already considered to be functionally obsolete. So I assume that our base station equipment will most likely follow suit at some point in the future, sooner rather than later. What does that cost? They put up a simulcast antenna for Washington, New Hampshire is about $80,000 for that site. So it's probably an expense that's out there somewhere for us. Regardless of, if we stay with our own radio system, we have all those infrastructure costs that fall on us as a community. But at the end of the day, it's a substantial number. So what I did, I had asked our radio maintenance provider, what cost could we expect to back out of our maintenance contract if we were to go to capital? That's what that offset number is, $5,500 out of the radio contract. We would not be part of the Sauhegan hazmat team, so that would get backed out. So if you go a couple lines up from that, the 74 number is capital's price. The feels like number is about 30 grand cheaper than that.
Now with that, Chief, you speak of the radio improvements for the fire side with what we have already laid out in capital as far as for the voter sites, the PD and everything like that. They wouldn't touch any of that, would they, for the PD and the highway department?
All that infrastructure would remain. They would no longer support our stuff than the maintenance contract, if that's what you're talking about.
No, I'm more so talking about that the 9 simulcast sites that capital area has.
Yeah, they wouldn't use any of our stuff, nor would they support any of our.
And that
stuff
goes across the board, as far as fire, police, highway.
I'm not sure what your question.
Historically the town's put a lot of money into the radio system.
Yep.
And all those improvements that we've made obviously have been at taxpayer cost. If capital area were to come in and the fire side were to jump off,
yep,
theoretically the fire side would jump off of all those improvements.
Correct.
And it would leave the PD and the highway to their own still with the vendor.
Correct, and somewhere in the budget is the radio sites. Be a good point for my reading glasses. Anybody?
Sites or
Well, the maintenance contract?
oh, line 57 then.
Yeah, 57.
57. So out of that line, you would back out about $5,500. So the way that they explained it to me from R&R was we would pull out the money, all of the money for the repeater sites, which is in fire's contract. It would pull that out, and then about half of that would go back into the police contract. There's some pretty. If anyone's interested in that.
Any board members have any questions about the contract?
Just a question about the line 57. It says fire radio equipment repair, I guess.
Yep.
So that would only reduce that number by $5,000, you're saying? What you're requesting is like 27,000?
Right, well, that line includes all three departments. So that includes the infrastructure for,
So that 27,000, if you divided it by 3, and then that's what your contribution
This
is?
would be 55.
no,
just for five.
so the
Oh, just
fire
for
department
fire.
has, a whole ton, bunch of radios. It maintains all the repeater sites, even though the police are in there as well.
Yeah.
And it maintains the Mine Hill base station site. So what R&R proposed was essentially just pulling out the fire department specific costs that are involved in the repeater sites and the base station maintenance and stuff like that. So we still would have, so that was roughly $5,500.
Okay.
We still have all of our portable radios, mobile radios, that they would still do. All of the police department, which some of that expense would get transferred onto them. I mean, it's got to show up in someone's budget. And then the DPW part.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
It was less than I thought. Really thought that would drop more than
Yeah. I thought
than
it was
that.
good.
But
Any other questions?
So what you're saying is we're still gonna have to maintain the radio for the highway and the police that we have now?
If they were to move off, yeah.
yep.
And do we have a cost for that? Do you know what that cost would be?
The 27,000.
The 27?
22,000-ish.
22 and change.
Yeah.
22 and change in addition to this?
That.
That?
No. So you take the
Take the
74.
minus, yeah.
74.
So you'd have to increase the dispatch by about 50,000.
50,000.
Then take 5,500 off 57.
Yeah.
Right. Off line 57.
Right.
Offline, yeah.
Right.
But that's not even what he's proposing, it looks like.
No. Not by the looks of the adjustment of the
No,
line.
that's not proposed.
Oh, don't.
Yeah.
And for anything in the proposed number, I just had to put a number in there. So
So what would be the bottom? No, okay, this says it's prorated.
yep.
Based on
So
the
if we
actual-
don't go live till say July 1st, it would be a prorated amount on that
Okay,
first
so
year.
what would the yearly amount rate be for that dispatch? The
That
74,000?
the 74 is the yearly amount for that.
This is.
But like I said, once you, there's no doubt about it. There's sticker shock.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying, I mean, I'm looking at another number, it says Delta at the bottom.
Yeah,
so
what is
I'm-
that?
Yeah, so,
what is
so
Delta?
we would have the cost if you were to factor in what it is we would pay Goffstown to do our dispatching.
Yeah,
The hazmat team that we pay for, the radio maintenance stuff that we pay for. Once you start pulling those out, right, those known expenses, when you pull those out, the feels like number, it's 45,000 of new money, which is substantial.
okay.
This dispatch contract's only for fire, not for PD, even though they're dispatched out of the same place. Is that correct?
No, it's only for 5.
It's only for fire. Yep. Capital won't do police, so,
No.
yeah.
No, I just didn't know, because that was Goffstown's contract, I didn't know if it was inclusive, that's all. Or they already have our-
They have their own contract,
Yeah.
or I believe they do.
Right.
Yeah. Someone does it.
I mean, my personal feelings, I think that's one benefit that we have, is that our police and our fire are dispatched out of the same place. Whether the communication is correct or not, I think that timing is,
Yeah. Very important.
invaluable
Right.
sometimes.
Yeah.
I remember when the PD was over in Bow, and the delay was incredible. Any other questions from the board regarding this? Right, no?
I spoke with the chief coordinator in capital area today. If you would like him to come and you had specific questions for him, that he's more than happy to do that as well.
Board's feelings on that? Or are we pretty well stuck on the little bit? You good? Yeah? Alright. So you are looking to award one tonight, correct?
If that's your wish, sure.
Chairman Roberts, any input from the board forward? Okay, entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to award the fire ambulance dispatch service to town of Goffstown for a period of 3 years at a cost of $21,600 for 2019, $22,680 for 2020, and $23,808 for 21.
Is there a second?
Second.
Then have a discussion. Never mind. I'm not gonna hold that comment. Is there, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, I'm gonna abstain.
401.
401.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, it is. I know what I've seen them offer that over the years. In my other job, I saw how well they worked with the other towns that I patrolled, and their response, and with the new communications, the ability for law enforcement to talk to them directly. I mean, if they had to, but that's a big nut to crack too. But they do offer a lot more service.
Oh,
But
it is, but again,
that's a lot of money to
very
put
large-
back towards
very large
on
financial
the
nut to crack.
taxpayer. So
Well, it is, we looked at the 1990 Dispatch Services Committee report. I think it was Florence, was that her name?
Florence
Florence
do
was,
that
and
for
right
Red
here in
Phone.
town.
She was getting ready to retire, I guess. And so they looked at where they might go for dispatch services. The report recommended to go to Capital at a much reduced cost than what it is today.
yeah,
And the interesting thing in reading that very succinct report is most of the issues that existed in that report, most of them still exist today. So
Do you have that report? Or just,
I do. It took a little bit of digging, but we found it.
okay, that's good.
now we
Sure.
understand.
Yep.
I
And I will get
understand
you the document to the contract to sign at some point.
I understand why he's sniffling. He's
Do we need to come
dust.
back, or can we do that? Via
I'll just bring it
mail.
back.
Okay.
The budget.
He's got one, you have one more?
Oh, one more?
You said you had a couple of things before the budget.
Yep, I was gonna do those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just want to make a couple comments. I didn't hear all of the chairman Robert's comments because I thought the meeting started at 7. So I just want to talk about 4 things real quick. In regards to the public hearing for EMS billing, we needed to have a public hearing. And so the rules for a public hearing are we needed to post it in the newspaper, it was on the town website. Our meeting night happens to coincide with the Selectmen's meeting night. We made the time early enough so that if people wanted to attend both, they could. You know, I feel like we did everything that we were supposed to do to get the word out that we were looking to revise the rates. 5 years ago, we were in this venue at the Board of Selectmen's meeting, as a couple of you are aware. And at that time, the Board of Selectmen the chair and the vice chair said that this was a Board of Fire Wards issue and that the decision rested with the fire wards. That was back in 2013. That's the rules we played by this time. To suggest or that, somehow we were doing something, less than what we're required to do, or should have done it in another way, or here, we were told otherwise the last time we tried to address rates. So let's go on to the vehicle equipment fund. A fund that really hasn't gotten much attention in the time that I've been here until now. Although I have a Board of Fire Wards, as a fire chief, I feel, my personal belief is that I have a fiduciary duty to manage the EMS revenue for the town and to act in the town's best interest. I manage and oversee the actions associated with those funds. I manage the people who go out and perform those duties. I manage how we receive that money, the requests for disposition, hardship applications. So I have a lot invested in that fund. And I take that very seriously. I work with Beth quite closely each month to try to recover the costs associated with providing those services. And so we have the cost of services, we have training, we have the preparedness, we have equipment purchases for that, vehicle purchases that are directly related to that. And those costs have gone up. And we have to plan for the future, and so that we have money available in that fund to purchase that equipment going forward without having to come back to the taxpayer and say, I need $250,000 for an ambulance. And so we are constantly looking at revenue, and we're constantly looking at expenses, and we try to find a balance. So that's kind of it on that. The next thing that I just wanted to touch base on was the insurance check, which seems to be getting a lot of attention of late. I think Naomi did a decent job of explaining the insurance check and the vehicle purchase that preceded that. Not to beat a horse to death, $100,000 ladder truck, $75,000, 75% of that was to come from the vehicle fund, which its sole purpose was to purchase vehicles. $25,000 came from the unexpended fund balance at the end of the year, in whatever year that was, 2006, 5. We liquidated that asset. We got $54,000 for that. $1,000 deductible, $53,000. I will stand right here and tell everyone that I feel like 75% of that really should be put either back into the fund, which would require a vote, or be used for a purpose that's similar to that, that's in harmony with the purpose of that fund. Just so there's no ambiguity. And lastly, I just want to address the comments of some of the people that have come up before this board, and that there's an insinuation, I guess, that the fire department and/or myself are not operating in the best interests of the public, the town, or the taxpayers. Personally, I work very, very hard. I know the people that work for the fire department are going above and beyond every day, to the extent that they can. And I find those comments to be offensive and disrespectful to all the people in the fire department, because they're out there. One, they're available for calls without any compensation. And they're the ones that get up in the middle of the night, and to think that we have our hand in the taxpayer's pocket because we like free money is just not, that's just not the way that we work. So that's my soapbox. Budget?
Budget.
How would you like to go?
On the top.
You just want to do the ones that go up, or you?
Anything we think should be addressed.
All right, well, we'll assume that all of the stuff that was done by town vote, we can acknowledge. I'll just point out that under the line 15, excuse me, which is the secretary line, or it's labeled the secretary line, that seems to be a little under-expensed. And the primary reason for that is because the person that we're using in that job function has been so tied up working on the ambulance, their time's getting expensed out of the per diem program, the wage line, which is 151. And so that's why that line seems to be under expense. Just call that out. So in your line 17, which is a call force wages, I propose putting $30,000 into that for the purposes of standby pay. The fire department covers 24-hour clock, 7 days a week, but that 24-hour period is kind of broken down into 3 segments. There's the daytime piece, which is 7 in the morning to 5 p.m. There's the evening piece, which is 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., and then there's 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. The 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. portion is your typical paid on call or volunteer, if you want, like that's more of a volunteer kind of situation. And so we have people that are assigned to, or they sign up for a call night. And so we may have anywhere from 2, 3, 4 people on call for any particular evening. Again, that after 10 and before 7 period. And so what this does is to provide funding so that for every 4-hour period of call time, they receive 1 hour of pay. And so this is based on 3 people, 9 hours, using that 1 hour for every 4, with our rate of, I think it's $17. Well, I could do the math, but so that's what that 30,000 represents, is to provide some sort of incentive / compensation / thanks for that time period. Questions?
I guess I'll just ask the question. I already know the answer, but
Okay.
Approximately how many call force members do we have right now for the EMS side?
Oh, for EMS?
EMS.
I was going to say 15, and that might include me. It fluctuates. I know there's a couple people in the pipeline, so I may be off by 1 or 2, but it's a relatively small number, and they are burdened with a large portion of the calls that we do. So, go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
go ahead.
All right, so I was just going to break it down. So during the day shift, 7 to 5, that's about 50% of our calls are handled in that time block. The night portion, which is 5 to 10, is about 27-ish percent, and then the remainder is in that overnight period, where we get, it's very, very tenuous, anything after 2 a.m. Because we see people that have to get up and go to work, can't necessarily devote 2 hours to an EMS call, so it gets really iffy at that period of time. So we are really dependent on a small group to do the overnight to begin with, and a much, much, much smaller group to do anything after 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
And what is the projected department run total for 2018?
2018, we're about 810, 815. We've kind of been on this 5% increase over the last several years. Since the inception of the per diem program in 2010, our run volume is up 35%. All the other stuff that we do is just more and more every day. As I've said previously in capital, this is the busiest year really by every metric that we use since I've been here, and we're balancing that on a very small group of people, and we're going to talk about that after we get to the proposed budget piece. But it's just crushing itself.
So the line 150 reflects that standby pay.
Correct.
And what is the line 151 adjustment?
Line 51, which is what we pay the per diems, if you will. They cover the day shift and that night shift period. Because of wage increases over the last few years, our experience has been, we used to use $16 an hour as our weighted average, and that's now up to 17. So that just reflects that, what our experience is. It's really hard to say you make $10 an hour and you're going to work 2,000 hours this year. That's easy to figure out. It's kind of who comes out. We have to kind of look at what our experience has been in the past, and then because that kind of has that weighted average already kind of built into it. So. Want to go down to fire dispatch?
Sure.
That's the one on you guys. I took the liberty of putting that in. That's the increase over last year. So it's a substantial increase even for them, and nearly doubles the cost of that contract. We look for an increase in printing. We didn't really have much money in there to begin with, but we go through a ton of forms, and forms cost money. The next line we rounded, so the $7 increase is due to rounding. If you jump down to supplies, which is your line 37, that's a 6-year average of what we've been expensing. And that's, a lot of that is due to default budget stuff. Fire software support, we added $100 into that because that cost us $100 more than what we were budgeting, so that's just a truth in budgeting piece. We're waiting on fuel. My 2 cents on fuel is whatever you were thinking you were going to spend for fuel, you might want to put a little more money in than that, because we're probably, this doesn't include October's fuel, so we're probably out of money with this latest
Everybody is.
bill. Yeah.
We budgeted too low.
Yep. The next line, medical safety gear, line 46, looking for an increase in that line, and that just reflects our historical average, right? We have, what says 4 years there, it's probably 5, where this stuff costs money, we're busier, we buy more stuff. Pretty much anything that's we use on the ambulances comes out of that line. Fire training fees, we have a number of people who are interested in going in one direction or another. So we have some EMS people who are interested in taking some fire classes, and we have some fire people that that are either training as an EMT, which a lot of that we do in-house, but we'd like to get more EMTs to the advanced EMT level, because that's a much better fit for the types of calls that we go to here in this community. So that's just some seed money for that. Uniforms, because our people work more, they wear out their uniforms faster. We have new people coming on. Those people need uniforms. It's just a snake eating its tail. I saved a little money in line 60, which was the $500 for the ladder truck certification.
Any other questions for the fire department?
Yeah, so half the increase is the standby pay piece. We have
Dispatch.
the dispatch contract, so that's 40 out of the 60, and then the rest of it's just kind of nickel and dime. There you go.
Emergency management or forestry?
There's no changes, I don't think.
Any questions?
I've held the line. I told Ray. He wasn't getting
any more?
Wasn't getting anything else.
I think it was a relatively decent year on the forestry side.
Yeah, apparently all we had to do was buy a forestry truck, and that put an end to having forest fires. It looked like we were going to have a busy year because it got really dry, and then it seems like it's rained since then. Yeah, it's been a strange year. Forestry calls were way down, way down. I don't think we had anything. I don't think that we had much of anything that required any mutual aid for brush.
No.
Yeah.
I
don't think so.
Any questions for the fire chief? Comments from the finance committee?
Oh, I got more.
You got more?
Yeah.
More?
Yep. I kind of chuckled the other night. Well, I have some stuff that I felt would not be in the proposed budget. It would probably fall outside the proposed budget and end up in a warrant article, and so that's why I didn't include it in the proposed budget.
Can we take finance committee comments on the budget first? Just on the budget?
You're the boss.
Finance committee?
Come to the mic.
On the mic.
Thank you, Chief. I didn't understand about standby pay. Is this something we're doing now? Is this something new? And could you go over how you calculated the $30,000?
It's new. Not necessarily a new concept, but new in practice where it actually finds its way into the budget. I've been here for, how long? 7 years? 7 years. And the entire time I've been here, we have literally chased around the clock, how it is that we're going to have people available or ensure that people are available to handle the run volume that we've had. Some of it was here when I got here, which was the per diem program, and I would say that that is probably one of the most successful programs that I've seen, and where it's actually done what it's intended to do. So we started to apply funds in paid on premises, if you will, personnel, at different times of the day that we had the most difficulty covering. And it's almost acted as a relief valve, so that where, hey, you know what, we can't cover weekdays. Okay, well, we'll apply some funding to that and some staffing, and that's taken the pressure off that. And then we had the, this plays right into my presentation, Neil, so thanks for that. And then, so then we had, so that was in 2010. And then we had issues with weekend day coverage. And so we did some creative financing on that. I actually have a slide on that one. And I'll get to your answer. Trust me, it'll just take a little bit to get there. So in 2014, weekend day coverage was a real problem. We didn't have anybody hanging around on the weekends. So what we did is we added originally Saturday coverage, and we financed that, if you will, by, I worked on the ambulance for 10 hours a week, and we had someone in paramedic school, so we were exchanging tuition for 10 hours a week, repayment for that. So we kind of got a free day, if you will. We expensed that in the operating budget. And that expanded into Saturday and Sunday coverage. So that took the pressure off of people having to adjust their schedules to be available on Saturday and Sunday. And then we ran into the same issue where we just didn't have enough people home during the kind of the commute hours between 5 and 9 or 5 and 10 p.m. When people were getting home from work, they were making dinner, they wanted to spend time with their kids. And, you know, the last thing they want to do is to walk in the door, hear their pager go off, jump on the ambulance, they were gone for 2 hours, they never see their kids. And so night times became a real issue. Nighttime weekends were always a problem. And so that kind of brings us to, and that's back when we were doing about 680 calls a year. And so now we're at 800 calls a year. So the number of calls that are happening in the overnight period is getting more and more. And the people are, when you think you might go out on a call, you know, every 3 or 4 days, it's, you know, the mentality might be, gee, I hope I get a call tonight. And now it's, I really hope I don't have to go out tonight because we know we're going to have a call. And so because we can nearly predict as much as we can predict in this type of job, that we're going to need your services, we need to ensure that someone's available. And so this money is to help ensure that piece. The math on it is standing by. So it's 3 people, paying them 2 hours of pay each. We use $17 as that rough thing. 365 days is $37,000 and change, plus benefits. 3/4 of that is in the $30,000 ballpark.
And this is for EMT or this is for firefighters?
This is primarily for EMTs. This is, so when we look at who we're going to pay for standby pay, is we are going to pay at least 2 EMTs or 3 EMTs. And there might be 2 EMTs and a firefighter. At the end of the day, we're all in the same mix of stuff. So we're primarily looking at that group of 15, 16, 17 individuals that are broken up into groups that are assigned nights to work, of giving them a little bit, 2 hours of compensation for that 9 hours of standby.
Do I need to go up there right here?
Yeah.
Lori Davis, Finance Committee. Chief Facina, if you would please explain how your calls are done, how many fires we have versus how much medical we are actually having to deal with because we are having a much larger elderly population. There was a statement at one time, you raised it earlier, about money, accidents, and people in Weare aren't the only people having accidents. We have a lot of creative people that drive through Weare that have accidents, so please let us know how that is all broken down, or give us a general, if that's possible, explanation of what percentage of your job is more medical than fire.
Ready? So, medical calls include someone who just calls up and says, I have a straight up, I don't feel well, cardiac event, trouble breathing, straight medical stuff. Then there's motor vehicle accidents that are counted as medicals because 2 cars crash and someone's hurt, even though that would involve someone maybe having a fire truck there with the jaws of life. It still kind of shows up as a medical in our stats. About 70% of what we do for work is medical related. So when we talk about, an employee, someone says, I want to join the fire department. That's awesome. Come on down. But 70% of what we do, we need someone who's licensed by the state of New Hampshire to provide medical care. And, kind of that base level person is emergency medical technician. And it's 200 hours of training to get to that point. Then there's a couple of little steps that they have to take. But it's 200 hours of commitment by an individual just to get them to the point where I can use them out in the field. If they want to be a firefighter, before I can really dress them up and have them perform that function that we know what we want a firefighter to do, it's 212 hours of training for that. So if you wanted someone who was kind of that dual role employee so that we could put them into nearly every situation we're going to encounter, it's only 500 hours of training, which is a lot. At 40 hours, that's a lot. 12 weeks of training straight out. So it takes a long time to get somebody up to speed, and then once they're here, we don't want to lose them. And so we're trying to make them, I don't want them to waste their time. I don't want them to feel like they're not appreciated. And so and Rick might be able to tell you, we've tried everything to preserve the model that we're in, but we're running out of tricks.
Thank you for that explanation. Going off of that explanation, my personal experience has been my husband punctured a vein falling out of a tree, and I don't know why he was up the tree. However, the fire department got there very quickly. He lost 3.5 pints of blood. I would like to know, when your people go on a medical call, because I don't know if everybody figures this in the cost of what we pay our fire department people, how long are they actually gone? Because I know with my husband, they were gone 3.5 hours.
Is that a question?
Yes, please.
Well, 3.5 hours, if we were gone 3.5 hours, that's a long call for us. Our typical, from the time that we get called until we drop the patient off at the hospital, in a typical, or on average, is about an hour and a half, hour and 20 minutes. Some are quicker because they can walk to the ambulance and off we go.
It wasn't their fault. There was a snafu at CMC, but time frame generally, it's more than an hour.
It's more than a typical round trip call for us is 2 hours. And we have had, and I've personally experienced this, not only at CMC, we rarely go to the Elliott, and we try not to go to the Elliott. because it just adds another half hour to our trip. But CMC in Concord, I waited at Concord for over an hour once we were there, waiting for a bed to hand the patient off. It's not uncommon at CMC, and it's becoming a thing. I know of at least 2 other instances in Concord now. So, it's a it's a job, and you may not be you may be part-time or a call person, but you're subject to all the same rules and regulations as a full-time employee, and all of the inconveniences and joys that go along with the job as if you're full-time. I sense another question.
One more follow-up to that, which leads into your financing, is when you have a fire call, those fires can take more than a couple hours, can they not? And that requires needing to have people on time and to pay them and to make sure things are taken care of at that fire. Can you explain that, please?
Sure. Yes. Fire calls come, so we have medicals, car accidents, a lot of other calls that we do, and then you have fires of some sort. The fires of some sort, generally, they're going to take probably the longest as a type of call. They take the longest to deal with. They may require the most people. They're probably the most expensive because you got to bring all the different trucks. But it's kind of one of those high risk, low frequency events. One of our medium risk, high frequency events are medicals. We do a lot of them.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions from Finance Committee?
Dennis Dobbin from the Finance Committee. Hi, Chief. Just a quick question. So if you are going to be paying people basically to be on call, essentially, that's what you're asking to do, right?
Correct.
Okay, so are they going to get paid no matter what? And then if they get a call, are they still getting paid that, or is that going to go against? In other words, if they get a call to come in, that 2 hours or whatever you were going to pay them anyways, is that going to be on top of their time away? In their time in service, shall I say? So we just I just like an explanation of that, because then that 30,000 could change for anybody if you're getting more calls. If those people are coming in, then that call money wouldn't be necessarily being paid out, because it's going to go against actually being paid for service. Is that? Sorry, I don't know if I understand that.
Yeah, I just don't know if we could change places.
Yeah, sure.
So, you have a follow-up? Is that what you said?
No.
Good. So they have the standby piece, and the standby piece they have to earn, right? So for every 4 hours, they earn an hour. So when they have, let's say at midnight they have a call, right? So they got the 1 hour already, and then so that would be included in that, used to offset that compensation piece that they normally would get. But again, because they earn that in increments, if they have another call later, or they don't have another call later, they're still entitled to that standby piece. So it's kind of 50-50. Yeah. For the sake of speed, I'll leave it there. That make sense? No?
I have a similar question.
Okay.
You're all set? Okay. All right. Finish your presentation?
I have a ton more.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. So that kind of it on the proposed budget piece. The next two things that I want to talk about are most likely warrant articles, and that's why I separated them. I got my slides all tangled up here. No, it's a different one. We have, as if you spend any time looking at budgets over the fire department budget for the last few years, our budget number has gone up as we've kind of chased that cost of how do we provide coverage. In my opinion, the only thing that counts in this job is that someone calls, we go, we do the best we can. I think if you looked at our budgets and tear them apart, you would see that the wages that we pay more now in wages than we did when I got here. The total budget amount is more than when I got here, but if you look at the cost of operation, all of those things that aren't wages and aren't utilities, that line is nearly flat. We've really not put any money into all of those accounts that really don't equate to putting people on the street and going to calls. And so as we looked at, but as we've experienced this increase in call volume, we have tried to balance that on a relatively few amount of people in our department. And one of the things that we have is we have that we're very efficient in what we do, and we do it with a very small number of people. We really don't pay them that much money, and so we have a lot of efficiency. The problem with efficiency is it breeds fragility, right? We have a system that isn't capable of handling shocks to the system, right? So if we plod along at a couple calls a day, that's how we're kind of designed to work. A couple calls during a day shift is not bad because we have people there. I'm usually working. We have other people that might be around the firehouse. But come nighttime, which is almost counterintuitive, but come nighttime, that people who are available is more scarce. And so the nighttime piece, as you can see in the budget presentation, is we're trying to address that piece. In 2010, when we said, you know what, we got to put someone in the firehouse for calls, we were at like 600 calls a year. We do 35% more calls now. That means every segment of the day is, kind of 35% busier. And so the nighttime piece has become a real problem, and it's very tenuous at best on some nights, and we talked a little bit about that. And so we're looking to address the nighttime piece. So the daytime piece works great. The downsides of the daytime piece is that we're really kind of at the mercy of the workforce. And so as long as people come to work, everything's great. We spend a tremendous amount of time during the week looking for people to fill holes in the schedule that come up. People call out at the last second. This is not their primary job. And so when their primary job needs them, or they gotta clean the gutters that day, we get bounced off the list. We have issues with, we have some supervision issues. We have the commitment to the schedule issues. Believe it or not, we have hours worked issues where some people are bumping up against that kind of full-time amount of hours because our pool's not big enough. A lot of people that work in the schedule, because they're not necessarily members of the department, if you will, they're outside employees, they're not available for callback. And as every segment of our job, recruitment and retention is an issue. So in looking out, kind of looking at that, what does the next 5 years look like? Well, the next 5 years look like, based on the last few years, is we're going to be at about 1,000 incidents a year. There's going to be more demand on everything. And it's my belief, based on what we've experienced over the last 3 or 4 years, is the model that we're in is just not going to be sufficient for that volume. So my pitch is, I believe now, 2019 is the time to begin the process of hiring full-time staff to get to a point in 2022 or 23 where we have replaced the per diem program, the nighttime piece, and the overnight piece with 2 people in the fire station 24 hours a day. And that involves adding 2 staff per year for the next 4 years. If you thought the dispatch contract was expensive, this is more so. It's a discussion that we've successfully kicked down the road. We've kicked that issue down the road for 8 years with the per diem program. And we have some great people. They do some awesome stuff. We don't have enough of them. We can't bring them in fast enough to sustain this. And you can watch it crack, and you can watch the holes form, and as much as it pains me, you're watching a department crush under the weight of its duty, and we need to take some serious steps, to prepare ourselves in the future to remedy those problems. And so my proposal, if you will. Is that one? Yeah. I have so many, it's hard to tell. I have 2 pieces of paper. This one is the part A. And then part B. So that's the warrant language for 2019. And then this is the more looking at the years.
Thanks, Chief.
Did you take my copy? I'll give it back to you. Apparently that was my copy. So what this plan, if you will, is with an eye out at 2000, to have it, this plan in full effect in 2023. It starts in 2019, hiring 2 people for starting July 1st, so you have a half-year cost in the first year. And you can see how that builds out in that spreadsheet piece. Recurring costs are on the top, one-time costs are in the middle. The offsets, want to talk about offsets?
Sure.
Okay, so the offsets, in the 150 line, which is the call force wages, is that if the proposed standby pay goes in, that comes back out, because we're not going to need that necessarily for standby pay, because we're going to have people already standing by. And then the per diem line, which is 151, that gets totally phased out because, again, we're replacing those with this. I think together those are about 200,000. It's nice that you don't have any questions. I must have done a good job at that one.
I think it's called sticker shock.
Yeah, no doubt. So, so sticker shock, sure. It's a sizable amount of money. So what I did to kind of make it a little bit more bite-sized, the fully loaded out piece, and we're talking out 5 years, it's 74 cents a thousand in today's dollars. Everything's in today's dollars. There's no adjustment. For that average home in Weare, that's $277,000. It's about $205 increase, all fully out at the end of the day at 5 years.
A year.
A year, and which is less than 60 cents a day for the average home.
Now, this warrant article that you've written up, shall the town raise appropriate sum of $99,576 to hire 2 full-time EMTs, represents wage tax benefits for 9 months, certain one-time expenses. If approved, this addition will become part of the annual budget. Would that be a warrant article for the next 5 years?
I think that would be very similar language for the next 4 years.
Okay. So.
Well, 4 years including 19.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. So, day one, July 1st, 2019, taxpayers approve this. What would these 2 employees be doing, Monday through Friday, 7 to 5, or?
Yeah, so the importance of the first 2 employees is that they're going to be the shepherds, if you will, of what comes after them. And so there's a lot of functions that are, there's a lot of functions in the department that are taken up by other people. Myself, the administrative assistant, the EMS coordinator, things like that. Inspections is kind of a big one. Is to utilize them where they work somewhat together, maybe not the whole scheduled week, but that we spread them out enough so that we get a week, 7 days worth of coverage with the full-time people. There'd be some overlap in their schedule because we want them to work together, but we don't want them to work together all the time. And so the first year, that's how I envision it going. And then the second year, if you get to 4, well, then you can start thinking about, well, should I team them up and use them in place of the per diem program? I don't think that that's necessarily a great idea, but maybe using them on a 24-hour rotating schedule where you have that one person for 24 hours coupled with the per diem piece, and that's why you don't see the per diem money go away until later in the, or a little bit at a time, because then you might pair them up with a per diem person, but you're getting your 24-hour piece started. And then when you get into year 3 and 4, that's really where you see the program really kind of take off as far as the benefit-wise to the community. And then you start to, you've kind of pulled the money out of the budget that we're spending now for labor and pushing it into that. We're always going to have we're still going to be a call department or a combination department. I see the need for the call force for the indefinite future, for sure. And I think that taking the pressure off of everybody with staffing is going to allow that call force really actually to thrive, because they can kind of, come in and participate at what frequency they can participate at, rather than, we're just trying to capture people and then dump a workload on them now. And it's just, it's not working. Yeah.
Now, these two that come in, so if these two were approved for the 19 budget, where do you see that early morning hours coverage piece? Where do you see that changing for 19 or not?
No, I don't really see it changing a lot in 19, because one, we got to get these people up to speed. Ideally, what you end up with is people who live and work in the community, and so that they may be available for callback. That's one of the pieces we don't get with the per diem program that you would get with you're more likely to get with your own employees, full-time people, is the ability that they can come back to work when you need them. And yeah, you're gonna have to pay them, overtime for that. But that they're available. Right now, they're not available because they're living in Francistown or wherever they live.
Okay. Any questions from other board members?
The one other thing that I would add, which I'm surprised you guys haven't asked, is grant funding. So this build-out plan basically shows us, with our own money raised through taxation, there is a grant program that's available called the SAFER grant. So the Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response is what SAFER stands for. It's administered by the Department of Homeland Security Assistance Firefighter Grant Program. And what it does is it provides base salary and standard benefits, no overtime costs for full-time employees. And so we could attempt we could apply for that grant and look to help defray the cost of this program as it builds up. I think that's obviously something that we should pursue. What I would like to avoid is to delay that initial hiring in 19 to say, hey, let's wait and apply for the grant, see what happens. The grant program closes in April typically, and they start making announcements in September. So we really would lose probably 2 years if we start like that. So I think that, to look at that hiring piece certainly in year 1 with application for the out years, but not to delay, or you're really just causing that compression of the potential crisis on the horizon and how fast we're going to need to hire people to deal with that. So. Oh, and so, I'm sorry, so the grant program pays 75%. It's a 3-year system, 75% for years 1 and 2 of the costs, and then 35% on year 3, and then you own them 100%. 5% in year 4.
Now, the people you're looking to hire, this is a two-part question. The people you're looking to hire, are they going to be already trained, or try to poach them from someplace else, or another state or
It's an
something
excellent
like that?
word. I use that word myself.
Yeah.
So the...
Or are you going to get just fresh, raw recruits?
Yeah, we would look to, obviously they come off the statewide list because they'd be firefighters, so they're in that Group 2 retirement piece. It's not uncommon, certainly not uncommon to EMTs are probably not an issue. AEMTs get a little more precious. They don't make enough paramedics to satisfy the demand in the state. And so the paramedic piece would be the most difficult to hire one that's a firefighter medic. They're like unicorns, and they get scooped up right away. However, we've had very, very good luck with taking advanced EMTs and that have worked for us and send them to the Elliott. And so we'd love to hire medics. It's possible we could hire medics. I don't know if we would poach any, but it's very real that we would,
Said poaching, yeah.
that people would come and scoop them up from here. I'm under no illusions that, that people that want to go to Derry and Salem and Manchester are going to go to Derry, Salem, and Manchester at the end of the day. So
The other half of that is if you get a raw recruit that has no training, but he wants to be a firefighter, he comes in and then you send him to school, 500 hours between the two. Now, the grant's going to pay for that, but you figure you're not going to have that person into this warrant article and say there's one out of the two. You're going to be down one person for whatever time it takes for him to go to training and get it all done, and then hopefully he's there.
yeah, I think it's easier for us to hire someone that's trained rather compared to the police. The police operate differently in their recruit process, where on the fire service side, Joe Schmo can go get his Fire 1 and EMT and get on the list to get hired, and those skills are valid and those licenses are valid. Whereas on the police side, correct me if I'm wrong, nearly every one of them goes to the academy. So the hiring process is similar in some ways, but very different in others. But we're going to be in not a constant state of hiring, but I have no illusions that getting 8 people that want to spend 20 years here is going to be a challenge for sure. But
Okay, thanks, Chief.
yep.
Any other questions from the board regarding the warrant article? Do you have another one?
I do have another one. That's a great question.
Thank you.
So this kind of goes, everything goes on. Everything's related. String theory. So we talked a little bit about the stuff that's on the bottom. One of the issues that we suffer from is that the people that we ask a lot of have kind of fallen behind market, and that market is not only, from a wage perspective, is not only outside the department, but also inside the town. And so we used to be somewhat I don't want to use the word parity. What am I missing here? Maybe it's in this pile. I'll just make it short and sweet. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to add $2 per hour to the existing wage scale for our employees. And that's for hourly employees, that doesn't include me, that's just for people that get paid by the hour. Sorry for being so disorganized. We're close. There we go. Currently, our wage scale tops out at $18 an hour for paramedics, or firefighter paramedics. I'd love to get that wage really at 22, but we'll settle on 20 for this year. So I propose adding $2 per hour for the hourly people. That's the current scale. The proposed scale that's right next to it, it costs I added it up, $24,136 for the 9 months. And I have a, just as points of reference. So looking at the scale that's in the proposed warrant language, just looking at internal to the town, price points of other positions. So probationary truck driver at DPW, and I know that might be a proposal out there as well. Right, they're coming in at $16.56 an hour for a probationary truck driver. Then they go to $16.84. An equipment operator on probation is $18.76. Police department probationary candidate is $20.78. Still has to go to the academy. We're looking at a firefighter medic, which is really the gold standard of employees, and we're trying to get them to 20. So.
Any questions from the board? No?
And again, this is people that we pay only when they go out or only when they're working, So. I know it was long. Thank you for putting up with me. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out.
Finance Committee?
Just very quick, is this for EMTs, on-call, volunteers? Who does this $2 an hour increase cover?
Everybody that's hourly in the fire department.
Could you tell us who that is? I don't know.
Not me,
I got that.
everybody else.
Everybody else.
So, from someone who, it does not include a pay raise for someone who has no certification. Someone that just comes in the door would make the same under the proposed wage scale as they do now, which is $10. And then it's all set up by skill level. So you have firefighters, EMTs, firefighter EMTs, advanced EMTs, firefighter EMTs, medics, firefighter medics, first responders, and based on their skill level, that's where they get fit into the scale.
Thank you.
Yep. And I'll have that when we go to finance.
Any other finance? Okay. Anything else from the board? No. I'd like to thank Chief Adina for his presentation.
I did write down something about, like a one-pager on ambulance billing. Is that what you guys wanted?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Anything else for the chief?
Nope.
Thank you. Proof of vote?
Is there three signatures?
What's that?
Is there three signatures?
Of course.
All right, well, back in the paper.
Oh,
Give her a lunch box.
Is Beth leaving? Beth?
you want to stay?
No, can she answer that question on the bill? Did you get enough people to sign?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit.
There's enough people to sign, but we don't know what the question is.
Right.
What the answer would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Bergeron bill?
Bergeron. Actually, you're right there. Chief, before you leave, we got a question. on the manifest, there's a bill in there for Bergeron for protective equipment. And it was broken up. The bill was broken up in some different ways.
Oh, yep.
Damn it.
Will they beat that out? Bergeron equipment, is that for turnout gear?
Yes.
Yep.
I believe it's just the way that the bill's split up.
There might be two bills in there.
Well, there's
I'm
two
not sure.
separate checks.
Yeah,
Yeah, this time of year, we
Two
just,
checks.
there's two.
Right? Yeah, there's two checks, that's why I questioned it, I didn't. Okay.
There was some notes at the bottom of the page.
yep, we have a purchase order, so we have, we had money in that line item in the 2018 budget, and we have a purchase order, so we used up the rest of the money in that line item and applied the rest to the purchase order that is still outstanding. Does
Makes sense.
that make sense?
Where the purchase order, was that from earlier this year?
Yeah, the purchase order goes back to, I have to look at the
I
date
think
on
it
the
said
purchase order.
2017. I
No,
think.
it's an 18 purchase order.
18,
Yep.
okay.
But we did it,
But you have all the merchandise.
we have all the merchandise that is listed on here, yeah.
Okay. That's for the full amount of the two checks.
Yeah, we just split it
Okay.
between, we had a balance in
All
that
right.
line, and
Okay,
then we took the rest out of a purchase order. We still have
Gotcha.
stuff that's pending.
okay.
I think there's another set or two out there. So-
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Need any more signatures, or you all set?
No, oh, no, it was plenty on there.
Oh, there were?
Thank you.
On the,
I'm gonna use
sign it, though.
Bergeron because we've been with them for a while, because they represent.
Oh, yeah, I
Globe.
recognize the name. That was,
Yep.
I just didn't know if you were paying in advance for something you
Nope.
hadn't received, or, that's all.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
The finance administrator would not.
Well, I didn't think so, but I just wanted to check. Thank you for your explanation.
Okay, moving along. Yes, very much so. Okay. After a lengthy budget presentation from the fire chief that we do appreciate, and we appreciate the Board of Fireworks being here, the three members we can see. Would you guys like any comment on any of that, or chief sounds good enough? That's what I like to hear. Okay, we will go to approval of meeting minutes. We want to table them.
I did the first one.
Which was the 10-17?
Yeah, the only thing I had in, is it hand, in hand or hand and hand? In, okay.
Hand.
Then that and has to be changed to in.
Yeah, I'll look at it later.
Okay. That's what I thought, but
Can
that,
you just look it up? I feel like I did a good enough job.
oh, no, everything else is perfect. I just thought that the
17th
name,
of mine.
what? The 17th.
Was I here the 17th?
Isn't that the 17th?
Yeah.
I missed the
Yeah.
last week's, or the week before.
Which page is that on?
I think it's mentioned throughout, but it's on the first page.
Oh, yeah.
29th warrant, I don't think.
No, maybe it is.
Okay.
29, okay.
That's okay. Well, I haven't had a chance to read it
But that was the only thing I found. Everything else was perfect. Very, very good. Oh, did you have something?
I know I missed a couple of them.
Did you have something?
No, I can't
Okay.
find it. They're there.
All right,
Yeah, it was just a small page and a half.
yeah,
That was our joint meeting.
yeah.
10-17.
Yeah.
I move
Oh,
that
yeah,
we
that's
accept
right.
the minutes of October 17th as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't there for most of it.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's right.
Noted.
Yep, there I am, way late. It is
Way
there.
lated.
And then what do you
5
want to do, 22 and
I didn't do those
I
yet.
haven't I haven't had a
Yeah,
chance to
I
look at them.
We'll
Yeah.
table those two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Manifest.
Going
It's here somewhere.
tomorrow,
There it is, right there.
I'm not gonna get up early tomorrow to be down at the.
All right, so Move to order the treasurer to sign payroll and accounts payable checks dated November 8th, 2018 is included in the following manifest. The payroll manifest is $53,245.82 for weekly payroll. And accounts payable manifest is $64,518.90. John Stark's payable for $250, and Weare School District manifest is $450,000 for a total of $817,764.72. Yes, all the heart, that's what I did too. Okay, so as there is no selectmen's meeting scheduled for Monday, November 12th, 2018, further order the treasurer to sign payroll checks dated November 15th, 2018, estimated to be about $65,000. Furthermore, order the treasurer to sign up to the amount of $60,000 for accounts payable that cannot wait until the next scheduled meeting of November 19th, 2018, without incurring late charges or interest. Reports and actual check amounts will be reported to the Board of Selectmen by inclusion on the manifest memo at the next scheduled meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll just say it right up front. I need a non-public at the end of the evening.
Yep.
Really? Really?
I'll go through the non-building one first. Tax deed option number 6. Because we are not meeting next week, we have to create minimums for those first 3. So that we can have an option number to start with.
I think it would be what we need to get out of it.
Yep.
That'd be my
minimum.
thought, right?
Yeah.
What's all?
Okay, well, I've come up with, do you want to the
Yeah.
penny?
Yes, well,
Well,
roughly.
Round it to the 100.
Round it.
Round it to the
Round it
100, I'd say.
Yeah.
I don't think we got rounded to the 1,000. I'd say round it to the 100.
Are we adding in there to the legal fee? Because it should be added.
Legal fees for, I did the eviction letters.
Yeah, whatever. that's
Okay.
for that.
Is she gonna be there on that Saturday?
She is.
Because that should go to the auction.
But you're gonna get all the proceeds from the rest of them.
why?
What?
Because the rest of them, if you've kept longer than 3 years, the money's all yours.
Right.
So you're gonna get that money. It's the 3 that are not, that you have to have a minimum starting.
Just a reserve
Well,
on
I
it.
think the reserves are.
Okay.
Yeah, you can have a
I think
reserve
we'll-
on it for
we'll be
what
okay.
we've got in it.
I know what you're saying.
Because we've been paying legal fees
All along.
all along.
No.
Well, anytime
Asking
we have a
different
question,
questions, yeah.
Yeah, but how do
So
you
the-
tack that to one of the 3?
I think I'll probably break it down through all of them, give like
Percentage.
1/10 of, you know what I'm saying, of how
That's a
many
lot.
there are.
That,
I think that's
Okay.
a lot.
I didn't do it that way, but,
do you have the numbers?
well, I have number 1, just, I can say it as
Yeah,
public information.
exactly.
206 and 208 Mountain Road, you've got a total invested that you need back of 117,425.29.
To make 117,500, right?
Yeah.
117.
117.5.
Yeah.
Okay. 325, 327 North Stark. You have 90,872.86.
What is it?
90,872.86.
So 91.
99,000.
90,000.
90,000, oh, 90,000.
91.
Let's go
91,000.
91 is,
A flat number.
Both of them.
And then 1131 River Road, you have 47,956.31. 48.
so 48, yeah.
Okay, so those are the ones, they've come up with the agreements. Laura and St. Jean have talked about the agreements. They're okay with them. So I'll tell him what these are, just so we, and then I'll post it and we'll be there. I can't envision once these 3,
The rest of it will.
I don't think Laura would have to stay after we've
No,
talked
I
about
don't.
these 3. Because they're in order, so
Mhm.
1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Once those are done, she can go.
Yeah.
And we,
Okay.
and we can also, right?
Yeah,
You
we-
can, but I think it's gonna be fairly quick, the rest of them.
Oh, I
Yeah,
think so.
yeah.
Yeah. There has been a lot of interest this week, though, in a lot of them,
Really?
so
That's good.
we'll see what happens,
Yeah.
but okay, so that answered my question on that one. Hazard mitigation plan, we already did tonight. Lawn care contracts, last week you opened them. You asked me to, how much they were over last year, okay? So in the municipal One, it's up 1,000 over 18s to 19s. Cemetery's up 3,000 from 18 to 19, and the fire department's up $400 from 18 to 19. You didn't accept any of them
No.
because you wanted to wait till 5.
So, we wait, obviously, we got, 2 bids,
Mhm.
for or 2 vendors that bid for the 3 contracts. One was Big Dog for the, cemeteries,
Mhm.
and Stockhouse for the other 2,
Okay.
fire and municipality.
Yeah.
And $4,400 difference. Again, my comment earlier that I held is kind of gonna, caveat into this is just we have to watch how much with these contracts we do as far as the default budget. If we fall in the default budget, we are gonna be tight, and I mean tight. And I don't wanna see us have to borrow or put up on the other side just because of a couple contracts. I mean, the dispatch we have to have, the lawn care, we can't have hay fields out there. I get this, but on the other side of it, I think.
But at the same time, your hands are tied with what the House did.
Right,
We're not the only one that's hands are tied.
right. So, I mean,
So
obviously,
that's
this is a shared pain statewide,
Mhm.
don't get me wrong. But I think just we need to keep a financial eye on this. This is all well and good, we're giving these contracts away, but, and like I said, they are necessary to the town and costs are going up. I don't personally know how one can think that you can operate a town the same way for 3 years on the same financial money when everything keeps going
On
up.
the 16 budget.
And mostly driven by petroleum prices. And that's gotta be a huge number.
Well,
Well, our gas prices.
Have you?
Yeah, like you said, we can't have hay fields for the kids to go play ball in or anything else
Or
like
trying
that.
to weed to the cemeteries. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't do it. There's some services you have to render. And I believe that, especially, fire dispatch is one. I'm sorry, you can't go out 911.
Right.
And then, again, same with the trash, you get rid of the trash. So
Right.
I'm just thinking that we're gonna have to, really clamp down on this spending that we have going on. I mean, we've done a budget freeze effective last week, which I think was probably a couple weeks overdue myself after I thought about it. But at the other end of it, I think we're gonna have to really keep an eye on the budget. And I hate to say this, but if we're saying, for department heads and departments to really watch their budget, and we are not being ignored. I know that, but if we take the spending to be a little further, there needs to be consequence. It can't just be don't do it again, don't do it again, don't do it again. There's gonna be consequence.
I think the 400 and the 1,000 are pretty, those are pretty close.
Oh, no, yeah.
And, their gas is gonna be going up that they're gonna be using too,
But the
so, that I
3,000
can
one
see,
is-
the other one's a little bit higher.
Well, we're just, right between the 2 things tonight, $15,000.
Right.
Like that.
Yeah.
And in a budget where we don't have that wiggle room. So I think we're gonna have to really watch departments more, and like I said, and have consequence. What that consequence is, I don't know, but there's gonna have to be some kind of financial barrier.
Right.
Whether it comes back to the fact of, 3 strikes and now she has to sign all your checks, or, I don't know.
Yeah,
But
something's
it's gonna
gonna
have
happen,
come back- It's
right?
gonna have to come back down to something like that.
Well, you can't let it keep going, because this week, again, we had overtime.
Well, overtime's gonna happen. It doesn't matter how, you
Right.
can't shake it. You cannot shake overtime 100%. You can calm it, you can control it somewhat, but you can't shake it 100%. But on the other side of it, like I said.
Yeah, it could take one major catastrophe and your overtime is gonna go
Right.
right through the roof, so,
You have to
major
provide a service.
incidents.
Right.
And you have to,
But you have to watch it.
And we have the CBA that we have to abide by, as far as the 2 on, and if somebody calls in sick, you're gonna pay overtime. It is what it is. Not that I don't agree with what you're saying, just, you do have,
Now you got somebody stuck making an arrest at the end of the night, or,
there's so many factors
so
that
many
lead into
factors,
that.
stuck in court longer than it's supposed to.
But I think it's gonna lead into, especially, once we see what 2019 has in store for us after March, we're really gonna have to turn the tables.
And like you said, we haven't got the fuel bids right yet, right? For fuel
You aren't gonna
prices.
get anybody to give you a fuel. What we've done is we have to do
Yes.
the math,
You have to do the math.
because there's nobody gonna lock into the fuel price. And we already tried
And
that.
And on the world news last night, I think it was, they said something about the fuel prices, fuel would be going
Well,
down.
we budgeted for $2 and something.
I mean, as long as you can't tack onto the state bid because you don't get enough, right?
Yeah. Now, granted, we don't have to pay the road use tax,
But
but still, that's
yeah.
only, what, 30, 40 cents
Yeah.
on the gallon?
Mhm.
It's not, I mean, it's 30, 40 cents still, but it's not, you know,
No, we don't pay the federal or the state fuel tax for it.
so.
Right.
So we set that number up, I mean, that number could drastically put a bigger number on the other side. Drastically.
But I didn't know if you could go to the same bid that the state, tack onto the state bid that they get for fuel, like they get their fuel from,
They get a lot of different places.
no, they get one vendor now, pretty much down
What
here,
was
and it's
their vendor?
Dennis K. Burke.
Yeah, Burke, there's one drop in their holes quite a bit.
Oh, yeah. They're the ones that've had the bid for the past
I mean, I think-
5, 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're good for 18. You know, I think we're, I don't want to say we're great, but I think we'll
Get by.
We'll get by. But I think the 2019, you know, especially depending on what happens in March, we're really going to have to.
Well, it also depends on what we get back from whatever the court finally decides, which we haven't heard from
Well,
either.
we haven't heard
Whenever.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I'm beginning to think no news is good news, but I don't know.
So are we going to accept those bids, or?
Yeah, we can accept them. I just want.
So for I mean, there's a discussion about one hopped up 3.
Yes.
Yeah, that's,
You know,
that's a little much of an increase.
Well, you
To
can't
jump
get
up.
anybody to do it,
I
so
know.
unless you want to go mow.
I know.
That's the other thing too, is if we
It's
had.
it's very,
Yeah.
I've
The
talked to
cemeteries
several
are
people,
difficult.
and if our cemeteries were flat, it takes a weed whacker, and so it's very labor intensive.
Oh, yeah, very labor intensive.
Because there's no mower that's gonna go over the lumps and the bumps.
Yeah, they'd all have to be
Right.
filled in.
It has to be done, and,
Yeah.
so that is a total, 33, 34, so it's $5,000 over 3 years for that one. The contract for the fire is $1,200 over 3 years, and the municipal's $3,000 over.
Mhm.
So you're looking at almost the same between,
Yeah.
one contract has $4,200 in the 3 years, and one has 5.
Mhm. No,
So-
I'm not.
So you're looking at it,
Yep.
one is up front and the other's
No.
less.
And I'm not really balking at this. I'm just thinking
Yep.
that
Yeah,
It's
it's one more thing.
One little,
It's
they're
one more
all,
chip
yeah.
on top of the pile
Well,
that we got thinking.
Now, these
that's
are
all.
3-year contracts for these.
Well, it would be nice if there could be enough support and, you know, to understand exactly, I mean, listening to what we are up against. You know, when you call and you need somebody at 2 in the morning, people look at their clock and say, you know, I gotta go to work, I'm not going. You know, that's a tough thing to,
Oh, that's,
you
yeah.
know,
that's
when
just-
you're the one holding your breath that long.
It's a call.
That's historic everywhere in these
So-
small towns.
But I mean, everybody's facing it, but at the same time, I think we do a good job.
I
with
know
all
one
that.
town that's smaller than ours, but they had that, and they were paying their people, like you say, the on-call. And it's typical, you pay 1 hour out of every 4 hours you're home sleeping, so that it's guaranteed they answer the phone. The minute they answer the phone and go, then they're on the clock,
Yeah.
you know? And I know
But
police,
you
I know
also,
police
for
department.
holidays,
couple-
you're giving up,
Yeah, and I know a couple police
Birthdays.
departments.
ready to go.
Yes.
I mean, for holiday events, family
Weekends.
events, you're
Yeah.
giving up.
Yeah, there's police departments that do the same
You
thing.
earn
They
1
get the
hour
guys
pay
that do
4
the
hours.
on-call at night, they take the car home and they're
Yeah.
on, so they
Yeah.
get their 24-hour coverage. But it is, it's a,
And we've increased.
and it's tough to look,
$200, did he say?
it's tough to look at it. You look at your
Like
clock,
3
you know,
years.
where do I
Yeah.
wanna go? Why do I wanna go in? I'm
Yeah,
part-time,
'cause
why do I wanna go in? So I go to
for 3
work
hours,
in
I'm just
3
gonna
hours,
sleep
yeah.
like I didn't
Oh, I
hear
didn't hear the page, or I didn't hear the phone call.
So,
I mean, it is tough when you don't have,
If the rescue
Full-time
squad
people.
goes out for like, say some event, somebody's having an event, and they go out and they sit there all day, are they getting paid
Yeah.
by the people that are holding the event?
Yes.
well, they charge, detail, right, like a police
Yeah,
do,
yeah.
yeah.
The
Yeah,
football,
well,
football and stuff like that. Yeah.
football,
The
Yeah,
guys
that's
are
the
getting
best,
a
yeah.
special
the basketball
detail.
games at the high school, the
Yeah.
police get detailed.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
If the
Just
ambulance is
curious,
there,
yeah.
they get detail.
And they're getting the
That's
hourly
billed
rate
up.
plus the administrative costs.
Yeah, they bill it out, so it's,
So-
But nothing for the vehicle sitting down there all day?
oh, yeah, it's.
No, just the hourly.
No.
rate.
Usually the support, I mean, like I know when they do the details on the road,
Not
the
for-
poli-
not
they
for the
charge out enough so it covers the cost of the fuel and maintenance on the vehicle and all that stuff. It goes
I don't
into
think
a
fire
separate
does it
fund.
that
I don't
No.
think they
They
do.
probably
It's 20
should.
No, they don't.
They should.
They
offset
should-
their
They should be
budget.
do not
getting, they
charge
should
for
be
the
getting,
vehicle.
they should be
They should.
getting something, even if
Vehicle
it's
sitting there is out of
$100 for
service.
the day. even if it's $100
I
bucks,
believe
they're not
it's
making any money on that
$25 an
vehicle.
hour
It just sits there all
and the
day.
employee
out of
gets
service.
it, right? Ricky?
Yeah, because if that detail is out of
$25
service.
They
an
miss
hour
one
for
call, they're
detail.
missing $600 or $700.
Yeah, but that's all they
Right.
charge,
They
I
get the other
think.
Yeah,
ambulance.
well, when the ambulance goes up for a football game, the ambulance sits there parked,
Off most of the
off,
time.
Yeah.
waiting.
Right,
Still,
And it could be uneventful, it could be eventful.
right.
But it's, last I knew, it was $25 an hour for them to sit there.
For the individual.
That's, yes, it is.
Yeah.
That's cheap.
And that's just for the provider, it's
That's
not for the
cheap.
truck.
Yeah, I think, though, if a vehicle's gonna be offline for 4 hours, they ought to be getting some amount of money. It just
That's
doesn't
cheap.
make a lot of sense.
I mean, they get in a bargain for
Yeah.
having a piece of
Yeah.
apparatus sit there.
Yeah, you've got
And
an
you're not paying for the
expensive.
Well, a
ambulance.
cruiser that goes on call and sits there with the flashing light,
They get
they're
paid.
getting $15 an hour now, I think.
Well,
It
they
was
figure it
10.
out. They take it, they have a
It's-
percentage that they take off the top. If you're getting paid $45 an hour for the detail and overtime
Yes.
for the guy to be there. Out of that 40, say he may only see $35. So $10 an hour out of that goes to vehicle,
Fuel,
administrative costs, fuel and stuff for them to do. Somebody back in the office to do all the paperwork to bill the person.
I'm just thinking of a way to bring a little extra money in when you've got something tied up for 4 hours.
Well, it's true, it's just,
I don't-
otherwise.
I agree. They're getting a steal in a bargain to have
Yeah.
that piece of and I mean, we pay how much for that new ambulance? How much is that?
$267,000.
Yeah.
And that's
that's
not
it.
completely outfitted with all the equipment.
90%.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, when you
Yeah.
start putting all the other supplies in it, okay.
Mhm.
So you say, okay, close to $300,000 for that thing to sit there, that we own it. And if it's gonna sit there out of service, that means
You're not making
we're not
any
in
money.
we're not in the revenue business to generate revenue, but we do generate revenue with it to help offset the cost of it. When you go
Right.
out on a call.
Right.
But let me ask you this, so what's the difference of it sitting off in the station and off at the grounds?
We're sitting at the station waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Plug-
it's in,
plug in-
but
plug
it's
in
in service.
power.
It's in service.
Nothing, but the problem
So it
is
can be in
if you get a
service like
call
that
come
when
in,
they
you
get
can
there.
go. If it's
You're
up at
paying
the
to
ball
sit there.
fields, for instance, or at a private, something
You're locked
private
Mm-hmm.
going on,
So.
You know.
okay, that's fine.
it's not in service. It's not gonna you're not gonna
For-
bring any revenue in.
For the details that goes on in this town, I'm gonna have to disagree with you, that's all.
Really?
Yeah, because of who it actually.
I know, it's mostly the,
If
It's
yeah, I mean, if
mostly
it's
the Weare
like-
Athletic Club.
Yeah, I'm
John
thinking
Stark-
if it's
In high
if it's a
school.
school stuff,
Yeah.
yeah, fine. But if it's
Right.
something else,
I mean, because that 90% of the time, that's why it goes out for details. Is for town functions, whether it be the whether it be the 4th of July committee down here, or the baseball field, or the football, most of the football game, but
Yeah.
John Stark graduation, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't see. I mean, yeah, you got people tying up
it's
their
all
day.
being used for
I can see
town
that,
residents.
but like I said, it's sitting off to the side,
Yeah.
not wasting fuel, not burning,
Yep.
not doing anything. I mean, if it was a for hire or for benefit, or for profit
Yeah.
operation, different story.
yeah,
But and especially like the cruisers, Ashland, that's a for profit gig.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
That's totally different. But
Yeah.
but most of the
They're
stuff that
renting
the
it.
ambulance and the
Yeah.
fire truck are gonna go to
I agree.
are in-house gigs.
Okay.
That's a different
That's
situation.
the in-house gig.
But I'm saying,
But on the other side of it too, then maybe there should be a rate for if there is a profit, setup out there, because they're out there,
Yeah,
and it could happen.
yeah.
But
I
then-
mean, I don't know how often it happens.
Right.
If it's a once-a-year deal
I think it's
or
once a year.
5
honestly.
years.
I think we have one activity that could really be for profit that we could, the motocross thing.
What's that?
Over in, they did it 2 years in a row, right, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
It's a motocross event for dirt bikes and stuff.
Oh,
And it's happened now, it's the second year was this year, so I think that's the only one that I can think of off the top of my head that really wouldn't be a town sport related.
They open up the racetrack again.
Well, that'd be different, yeah.
yeah.
So do you want to award
Yes,
with this
I
5
think we
million?
should. Okay, great. Move to award the lawn care bids, municipal and fire to Stockhouse, and the cemeteries to Big Dog Landscaping at the proposed rates for the 3-year term. Is there a
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. SEDS, That has been sitting out there for quite a while, and evidently there was some movement on it. You remember what that Tom was part of the community economic development strategy, or whatever, from Southern Hampshire. It was done between Southern New Hampshire and Central New Hampshire. Evidently, they had to revisit the project rankings last week. So the subcommittee reposted the new rankings on both the Southern New Hampshire and Central Planning. So it's going to sit up there for another 30 days. And so the new public comment period is going to conclude on December 7th. So I'll change the dates on the website because it just refers you over to the new one. That was the easiest way of doing it. I'm sorry, I missed. Library and the smaller budgets are going to be on the next time because we have no meeting next week. And then CIP will be the 26th. The schedule for December is 3. That should say 10. Sorry.
That's good.
3, 10, 17, and 26 for December. 26 being a Wednesday. And then I have a quick meeting in the morning, and then I'll be back, and then Friday I've got this morning. So, on to the building part. Yes, sir.
Line 10,
Hang on.
the harassment policy and personnel policy.
Yeah, we're still working with snags.
With snags?
Well, snags on the personnel side.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of unclearness.
Okay, so it's still moving forward
Plus,
though?
yeah, plus
Okay.
it'll make more sense to you after non-public.
Okay, I'm just thinking the wording hasn't changed for quite a
No,
bit.
it hasn't,
Yeah.
but we also have kind of put it aside because we're doing budgets.
Yep,
Yep.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But-
Just want to make sure it's still,
Yep, and I'll
even in
give you-
first gear.
Yep.
One question on the administrative, but I guess it could be old business, so. I mean, I brought it up before, it was brought up again about some employees, and did you send out a questionnaire, or we talked about it anyway, about changing Thursday, instead of half a day Thursday, have half a day Friday and work all day Thursday? No, didn't go anywhere.
Didn't
Okay.
go- Well, I've asked, but
They don't care about it.
They don't
No,
get one or the
well-
other.
I think the one that cares is because of Thursday night, right?
Thursday nights with the planning, with the planning board, yeah.
Yeah.
That was one question, and it was, there was some of the members of the board also were complaining, but it didn't make any difference to me, because they had less
Yeah,
access to
because
come
I
and get out of
asked
work at 4 in the
informally, I didn't send a
afternoon.
survey, I went out and asked, and there was not any takers to change one more time. So,
Okay. I'm surprised, I figured
Yeah,
they'd
thought
get half a
they-
day Friday off.
Friday and
instead
have
of
that long
and work all
weekend
day
maybe.
Thursday,
Yeah.
yeah.
you know what it is? You can take Friday off as a vacation day and leave Thursday. Beat the
Oh,
traffic.
and then you got another extra half day, and, oh, I see, yeah.
That's what the conversation is.
Yeah. Well, there's plenty of them that have vacation time, so,
Some of them,
yeah.
No,
figuring out another way to skin the cat, okay. I never even gave that a thought, yeah.
but that's kind of what the answer was. If you get
Wow.
up 1 o'clock on Thursday,
Yeah.
you
Take
could
a vac-
pack, you could leave Thursday and beat the traffic, Friday's traffic, and take
Yeah.
a vacation day
Yeah.
Friday.
There you go.
Yeah,
instead of
makes
half a
sense.
day.
Yeah,
Wow.
okay.
So,
Before you get started on this, I want to say, I think between Naomi and Beth and Highway Department personnel, I think that the job got done really well for the food pantry and everything downstairs.
we're not
so.
done yet.
We're not done,
No, I
that's the
know,
problem.
but I think that what you did
Are we
was
gonna,
good job.
we're gonna talk about that a little bit tonight?
Yeah, it's, yeah.
Yeah, but there's some sensitive issues we have to talk about that I can't talk about publicly,
Oh, yeah, okay. Yep,
just because of reputation.
yeah,
So, not public.
Yeah, there's more than one non-public,
okay,
so.
all right.
I haven't seen the lift yet. I didn't get a chance to call him today. I
No.
don't know what the deal is. He promised me, and I've gotten 2 messages from him that he's promised me he's coming and staying until he's done, so.
I don't know,
Well,
it
it's
gets
been
much
raining
colder,
an
they won't be
awful
doing the
lot, too.
roof.
He'll be out there,
because, well, you can
Freezing
do
in
that,
the
but you won't
I
be
can
putting
bug
seal.
again, but I
Yeah,
don't know what to do. I can't go off
Yeah.
and get it.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, I'm
I'm
not
getting a
sure
little
what to do.
disappointed already.
I don't know why they're so, when they came before, well, of course it was under a different owner, but boy, they were Johnny on the spot every time.
know.
I never had them, if they said they were there Monday, they were
But
there
don't
Monday.
tell me you're gonna be here 2 weeks ago and keep telling me
Yeah.
you can't get a vehicle.
Right,
Um,
yeah, that's, I'm
You
getting
know,
really
is it
irritated.
because?
Well, we got a contract with them, so what's the contract say?
Well, I mean, I'll call him again, I didn't get a chance to.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean, because it is getting colder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was 38 degrees today.
Yeah, that's-
Yeah,
You weren't gonna
Actually,
paint, you weren't gonna paint the roof in 38
actually, at
degrees.
You're not gonna be
4 o'clock-
painting that.
Actually, at 4 o'clock this morning, it was a whopping 33.
Yeah.
Well, it was it was freezing
When I
at the
left.
house. It was freezing at the house this morning because there was water and it was all skimmed over.
I'm just, yeah, I'm not very impressed.
We
I
have an
did
early
run
day tomorrow.
into Dave Huey Sunday.
Okay,
He's supposed to come see me.
okay.
He's busy
Oh,
doing
yes,
lawn
he is.
care right now
He
for
always is.
everybody.
He's a
But I
busy
did
boy.
run into him at the breakfast Sunday and he said
Okay.
he'd
Yeah.
come see me.
Okay, good.
So maybe we can work
Tie up a
at
couple of
that.
them. Yep.
The safety, the security camera, I reached out to him because I just, reminder, his contract says he was gonna be installed by the 31st.
Yeah.
I didn't hear back from him today, so.
Okay.
I know there's nervousness all around for that one because that was money that was encumbered,
Mm-hmm.
so it has to be spent.
Yeah.
The food pantry, as Jan said, we moved the shelves, there's a freezer down there, there's food down there. The computer, and that's Barn, not Bard. There's
Yeah,
a
I put it
computer and there's
Barn.
food still in another location that needs to be. And we plugged the freezer in a regular outlet because it was okay and it's running still. I would prefer to have a better outlet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I
So
think you
I'm gonna
better,
ask Carol to come and look at,
better put like 3 in there because you're gonna have, you might end up with 2 freezers and
yeah, what we've struggled
Fridge.
with is the doorways down there are very small.
Mm.
can
So we
open
couldn't-
one up.
I'm gonna have to either open one up, I couldn't put the freezer where I wanted to put it.
Maybe that'd take
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to
take
take
the
a
doors off.
door out or an interior door so I can get through.
I mean, if you took the door off, could you get through the door opening? No?
Take
You have to
door
take the
handle
casing off.
Yeah.
No,
If I
but if
took
you-
the handle off the freezer
No,
and
but if
take
you
the
take the-
casing off and,
Well, I got a reciprocal saw. I could just come up and cut it right down and then just box it in.
Put a new notch there, and then put the
Yeah,
second one back.
yeah, that's not a
so
big deal.
we're working at it. I mean, there's,
Still a lot to be done.
more that needs
Yeah,
to
a
be
lot.
discussed.
Yeah.
The, Sherry and I and Rodney and Laura from New Boston got to go Halloween to the Boundaries. That actually was, it was very interesting.
Yeah,
I
it
thought it
was,
was
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, it was good. Yeah.
So she took pictures and she's gonna write a report, and we'll share it with you all. But there was one they couldn't find, and there was one that's been down.
And one that's broken
Yeah,
off.
we gotta figure out.
We gotta
how to put
figure
that.
out. But that should be the town highway in New Boston, maybe
Yeah,
in
that's what I
Ben,
figured.
on that
Because you
one.
can't move it. It's gotta go back.
It's
or
gotta
else
go
you gotta
back.
have- You can't take some part
You
of
can't
New
take,
Boston
you
and-
can't take part of the
So
line.
that was one job well done. I thought it was.
Yeah, I thought it
Yeah.
went really good, yeah.
So, let's see, other than that, no, the rest is non-public today.
Okay.
Any correspondence? Other business?
Is that it?
I don't remember getting any. Never getting any. Look for more.
I didn't have
I
anything.
don't see any.
Is that the dispatch?
Yes, they are. Dispatch.
I'll have that.
He didn't leave it for us.
For what?
He left it by mistake.
Oh, yeah, he didn't,
I think this is one, yeah,
Has to be
I don't- is
yeah.
that Concord? Oh,
yeah, this is the RFP for
I'll just
that.
put it with it.
Yeah.
Because one's Concord and one's Goffstown.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
With no other business, correspondence, move to go non-public under RSA 91A3, Roman numeral 2C, or A and C?
A and C for one, we may have to go in and out.
Okay, A and C. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
All right, we'll have a couple of non-publics, and we'll be adjourning afterwards, so have a wonderful night.